Okay, so this is about how you download fonts, and there's a website called dafont.com, and I recommend it because it's really straightforward. The thing I really like about it is if you choose a category, um, you can go in and you can type the phrase that you want, and then you can see it. So let me show you. I'll start that over. So say I want sans serif, which is basically really clean, simple type that doesn't have little swirls and things on it. So since I already typed Better World, let's change it to this, make this change the world. And then I'll just click submit. And now I get to see what that phrase is going to look like in a variety of fonts. So that's kind of nice in that you can really see it, so you know, hey, is it going to look the way I want it to look in my design? Now once you find one that you like, you're going to click the download button. And pay attention to what the font is called. It says it right here. It's Primetime. I can also see it here. So it throws it to the bottom of my browser window. It's also throwing it into the download folder. So to get to it there, I would go to Go and Downloads. And if you have a lot of downloads like me, you might want to set it so that it's View, Arrange by Date Added. And that way, you're going to see the most recent things that you've gone ahead and downloaded. Or you can also go here and you can click the little arrow and you can say open or show in Finder. If you say show in Finder, it's really just going to open up that download folder for you, so you'll see it there. Now it's this one, Primetime. It's a zipped file, so before I can install the font, I need to unzip the file. So I'm going to double click and let it unzip, and then after it's unzipped, I'll go back and I need to look for the actual folder. In some cases it'll be a folder like this. In some cases it'll just be a font file. I need to open the folder, and here's my font. I also have a little PDF, and this is gonna give me information about the person who authored it, who created the type. It might let me know if I can, what I can use this type for. In some cases, it will be restricted so that I can use it for charity work or for student work or personal work, but I can't use it for commercial purposes, like to buy or sell things, without purchasing the font first. So now to load the font, I'm going to double click, and then I'm going to click Install Font. And it's installed it now. So it's in the system. It means that I'm gonna, anytime I use any apps that use type, I can go ahead and I'll see that font, I can use it. So whether it's Photoshop or Illustrator or Microsoft Word or Keynote or Pages, it's gonna show up. If you already have an app open, you need to close it before it's going to load that new font. So I'm going to go ahead and quit Photoshop. Then I'm going to reopen it. And now I need a new document, so I'll go ahead and make that. 8 by 10, 10 by 8. I'll say OK. I'm going to use the type tool here, and I'm going to look for it, and I can scroll and find it, or the way I like to do it is if you know the name, you can just type it. And, oops, was actually trying to give me one I didn't want. So something's up here, let's see. Ah, it's right there. I'm not sure why it wasn't showing up, but it wasn't. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to type. The font is here. regular, this font doesn't have bold. Font size, keep this sharp, that's better for the type. Whether it's left aligned, center, or right, generally you're going to want left. Color, you can pick a color. The option to type warp, you would type it first and then you could warp it. I recommend that you avoid warping your type though, because the typographer designed your font to have a really good proportion, and if you warp it, it kills those proportions. Alright, and then this is a nice little shortcut to the character panels. Mine's already open, but notice I can click it on and off, and the character panel has some of the things that are here. It also has a few other options, like adjusting the spacing between the lines, baseline shift, and also between the letters. I was baseline shifting earlier. I'm going to set this back to 0 so that it doesn't have that effect as I'm typing my new type. Alright, so now I'm going to go ahead and I'll type. And when I'm done, I'll click the check mark, and then I can go ahead and move it if I need to. It's a little bigger than I need it to be. I can change the size. To do that, I'd want to highlight it, and I'd use my type tool, and I would just highlight, and then I can go ahead and make those changes. Another thing I could do is use the type tool, and I could just click between the letters, and I could click return and have those words come down. If I do that, I might want to center align. And if I wanted to adjust the spacing on this lettering, I'm going to go ahead and use my type tool, and I'm going to highlight what I want to change. If I wanted this whole word here changed to be closer to reduce this space, I'm going to go ahead and highlight. Oops. I'm going to go ahead. Sometimes if it doesn't see that you've got the letters, already selected in your layer panel, sometimes if you just click, it'll give you the little bar that's, for the font, for the type tool, and then you can go ahead and highlight. I'm going to hold Option Shift. I'm going to use the down arrow to drop my type down. And notice as I'm typing that, if you look over here, this is my baseline shift command. Notice what it's doing. So it's raising up, well it's lowering because it's negative. So I'm at -34 right now. If I use the up arrow, then it pops down. Once I like it, I'll click the check mark. If I wanted world to be closer to change, do the same thing. I'm going to highlight it. I'm going to hold Option Shift. This time I'm going to use the up arrow. And I'm just going to tip those up so that it's close. Just looking at the negative space to get the space even. Another thing I might do is adjust the spacing between the letters. And W is a big letter and it leans. So often, with a W, you'll see space that looks to be too large as far as the lettering is concerned. So I'm going to actually just scoot the ORLD part of the letter closer to the W. So I'm going to click so that I have my little type tool highlight, cursor there. I'm going to use the left arrow and Option Shift, and I'm going to tighten this up. As I do that, notice that this number is changing right here. This is called the kerning, the spacing between the letters. So I'm going to tighten it just to try to get it, to look even between the various letters. And you can do that to your words. It's the typesetting part of really just adjusting it so that it looks as good as possible. And the computer doesn't always do an even job. Make a little more space there. So that's using the type tool. Pretty easy, pretty straightforward. When you hold down on the type tool, there's different options. There's horizontal, vertical, horizontal mask, and vertical mask. Horizontal is generally what you're going to want to use. Vertical can be used on occasion. It's harder to read though, so I'd avoid it for the most part. The mask tools are for putting pictures inside of letters, and we are going to learn how to use it, but not quite yet. So I'd hold off on that because it's a little bit complicated.